Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Eric Anderson. Dwayne Brown is off tonight. Tomorrow night, the president, Barack Obama, will announce his plans to reform immigration. Today, he turned to social media to promote the announcement with a video on Facebook.
Everybody agrees that our immigration system is broken. Unfortunately, Washington has allowed the problem to fester for too long. And so what I'm going to be laying out is the things that I can do with my lawful authority as president to make the system work better, even as I continue to work with Congress and encourage them to get a bipartisan, comprehensive bill that can solve the entire problem.
Fronteras reporter Jill Replogle joins us now from the newsroom. Jill, do we know what's going to be in the plan?
Well, we don't know exactly, but some highlights have been leaked. White House officials have indicated that up to 5 million people living in the country illegally might be able to stay and work legally. These are going to be parents of U.S. citizen children or of legal permanent resident children and people who have lived for at least 5 years in the country and are law-abiding citizens. It also seems likely that there will be more visas for high-skilled workers. That might be a repurposing of visas that are already there for high-skilled workers, but that seems likely to be included. Probably not included would be visas for more visas for farm workers or for low-skilled workers. And we don't know if there's going to be anything about border security.
Now, I imagine with some of the details already out there that we're getting some reactions to that. What are people saying about the possible announcement?
Yeah, the Republicans in Congress are livid. They're already talking about lawsuit, possible impeachment. They're calling this executive amnesty and are, saying that Obama should have waited and let Congress figure it out. Pro-immigrant groups seem pretty split. They all sort of agree that this is a Band-Aid, that congressional reform really is the way to get a long-term solution. But some people say that Band-Aid was necessary. There was just no other way to keep families together. Last year, almost 500,000 people were deported and a lot of families have been split up. So those groups are happy about this. Some other groups sort of agree with the Republicans that they really wish that Obama had waited and really tried to work with the new Congress to come up with some kind of reform.
And help remind us about some of the background that's leading up to this executive action. How did we get to this point?
Sure. The Senate passed a bipartisan comprehensive immigration reform bill last year. It was over 1,000 pages long. It was very comprehensive. It included everything from funding for immigration courts to allowing a lot of people living here already illegally to stay here and get work visas. The House never took up that bill. Immigration reform groups really pushed for it for a long time. And then some of those groups said, you know what, this just isn't happening. Let's push Obama to do executive action. And that's how we got here today.
Fronteras reporter Jill Replogle. Thanks, Jill.
Sure.
PBS NewsHour will have more on the announcement tonight at 7. And you can join us on the radio tomorrow at noon for San Diego reaction on KPBS Midday Edition. 2 San Diego police officers have pleaded guilty to committing crimes on duty, including stealing prescription medications. Bryce and Jennifer Charpentier are husband and wife. They were arrested earlier this year on drug charges and immediately were put on leave by Police Chief Shelley Zimmerman. Today, they pleaded guilty to selling hydrocodone and committing burglaries. They could be sentenced to more than 7 years in prison. A plan to increase tuition at the University of California is moving forward. UC Regents Committee approved raising tuition by 5% a year over the next 5 years. Governor Jerry Brown opposes the plan and voted against it. The state says it will increase UC funding by 4%, but UC officials say that's not enough. A final decision is expected tomorrow when the full board meets for a vote. A story now of money and politics. Tobacco money, that is. Tobacco giant Philip Morris contributed $4,100 to 6 different California Assembly candidates right before Election Day. KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg joins us from our North County Bureau. Kenny, what do anti-smoking forces say is wrong with accepting donations from tobacco companies?
Well, the American Cancer Society's Cancer Action Network has launched a campaign to discourage politicians from taking tobacco money. And the network says since July, more than 24 state lawmakers have agreed to forego the cash, but there's still plenty of politicians in California that are taking tobacco money.
Well, how big a player is the tobacco industry here in California politics?
It's a huge player. The Cancer Action Network says over the past 5 years, the tobacco industry has spent $63 million on lobbying and political campaigns in California. It's important to note that political contributions have gone to both Democrats and Republicans. For example, Governor Brown took $100,000 from Philip Morris this year for his initiative campaigns, and the Republican Party has taken more than $500,000 from Philip Morris this year.
Now, what kind of influence has that money had in the state?
Well, let's put it this way. Over the last 7 years, the legislature has considered 7 bills to raise the tobacco tax. Every one of them has failed. Voters have also rejected recent attempts to raise the tobacco tax at the ballot box. So California has the 33rd lowest tobacco tax in the nation.
KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg. Kenny, thanks.
Thank you.
The California Innocence Project says the world's longest wrongful incarceration in the state's history is about to end. KPBS's Amitha Sharma reports a judge has overturned the conviction of a Ventura man imprisoned for a 1978 murder.
Prosecutors told a jury Michael Hanline killed J.T. McGarry in 1978 because he was jealous. The two men had been seeing the same woman. California Western School of Law's Innocence Project started looking at the case in 1999. Director Justin Brooks says the project discovered pivotal police reports proving fabricated testimony had been sealed. And DNA evidence showed that Hanline wasn't at the crime scene. Hanline is the first of the so-called California 12 that the Innocence Project has asked Governor Jerry Brown to release. Brooks says the remaining 11 people behind bars all have cases similar to Hanline's. They are all innocent, Brooks says, and deserve to go home. Hanline is scheduled to be released Monday. Brooks says Hanline told him he just wants to go home and go fishing. Amitha Sharma, KPBS News.
Amid the current drought, San Diego approved long-term plans last night to move forward on a project to recycle wastewater into drinking water. Peggy Pico has the next steps.
The Pure Water San Diego project, often called Toilet to Tap, aims to provide about a third of the city's population with potable or drinking water by the year 2035 and reduce the region's reliance on imported water. Hala Razik, director of San Diego's Public Utilities Department, and Matt O'Malley with San Diego Coastkeeper joins us with details on how the project will move forward. And welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, Matt, remind us of how this Pure Water project will turn the sewage water into drinking water.
Sure. Essentially what's happening is there's going to be a diversion of water that would otherwise be headed towards the Point Loma treatment plant and putting water out into the ocean, treated wastewater, and instead turning that into potable water. So there's various different technology that could result from this process, but this step is the first in taking the move to get towards that.
And it works through filters, right? A huge array of filters, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Hala, the plan calls for 3 large water recycling plants with these high-tech filters. Where are these plants going to be, and how many gallons of water are we expected that they might produce?
So yes, the first one will be North City Reclamation Plant, close to Miramar and 52. The second will be South Bay Reclamation Plant in the South County. And then the third, the largest, will be North Harbor in the central location. All 3 by 2035, which is 20 years from now, will be producing 83 million gallons a day.
Last night at the meeting, at the city council meeting, Marty Emerald said, quote, "We can no longer afford to use water just once in this region." How much is this project going to cost, and who's going to pay for it?
This project is going to be a very important project moving forward. Like I mentioned, it's a 20-year project, and it is really kind of a wastewater solution. The federal government is requiring us right now to needing to upgrade Point Loma treatment plant at a cost of about $2 billion. So instead of spending that money, we want to direct that money to investing in pure water and creating a robust, reliable, drought-proof supply for San Diego. We are depending on state funding and federal funding, and Prop 1, the bond that just passed, will be paying for a portion of this.
So the federal government still needs to sign off on this waiver for
Correct.
the upgrade, but that's $2 billion toward the $3.5 billion. Will customers or taxpayers have to pay for any of this?
Yes, eventually they will be. We are doing this in a phased-in approach, 3 phases, and the first one will be a 15 million gallons per day, and it will be online by 2023.
Okay, and let's come back to this waiver. So it was a creative way to not have to do these upgrades right now, but how is that going to work, and when do you think the federal government will sign off on that?
So in January, we will be submitting the waiver application, and then we will be working with EPA and the federal government at changing the regulations to allow us to have the making sure that we will not need to be upgrading Point Loma. And we're hoping to do that in a couple of years from now at the latest.
And speaking of the EPA, Matt, San Diego Coastkeeper has supported this project for years, but a few people at last night's council meeting raised some concerns about the environmental impact. What kind of environmental impact could this have?
Yeah, well, we originally had those concerns as well. I mean, first and foremost, we're an environmental organization. That is why we exist. And so I had some of those similar concerns too, but after looking all the science that was behind it, looking at the studies that went into this, those concerns were addressed, I think, appropriately. And actually what we see and what we see that will come of this is an improvement in the environment. We're essentially reducing discharge of treated water out into the ocean. That's not only going to improve our environment locally, we expect, but also the environment that we draw all this water from in other places. So from the Colorado River Basin, from Northern California, we hope that less of that water will be necessary, so the environment is improved in other places as well.
And Hala, what's the immediate next steps? We talked about this waiver. What's going to happen now that the City Council has approved moving forward?
The first step would be to submit the application to the federal government. We'll be doing that in January, followed by working with the federal government, making sure that we can secure the necessary assurances, not needing to ever upgrade the Point Loma treatment plant, as well as doing the planning and the design for the first phase, that 15 million gallons per day facility at North City Reclamation Plant.
And Matt, and this is a 20-year plan, as we've been talking about, real long term. What would you say is the most important thing for people to do now in the interim while trying to protect their drinking water here in San Diego?
Still conservation, first and foremost. I mean, we only have so many reserves going at this point, and with the drought coming, we don't know how long it'll last, and so I think conservation first and foremost.
All right, Matt O'Malley and Hala Razek, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Southwestern College is plugging into the sun and slicing off nearly a third of its yearly electricity bill. The community college has 6 newly shaded parking lots around the Chula Vista campus. Southwestern College's Melinda Nish says the solar structures will generate 3 megawatts of electricity.
We anticipate about a $600,000 a year plus savings, so that will help us avoid budgeting more and more money for increased costs of electricity and allow us to better budget and kind of keep that at a constant cost.
The solar parking lot trees made the most sense for the school because rooftops there are too small to hold large sheets of photovoltaic panels. SunPower handled the $13 million project. The company's Sean Mantucca says the parking lots were an obvious location.
So there's plenty of space here at the college to produce the energy that it needs to offset the energy that it's consuming. So ultimately you need to find that space to install the solar.
The project was paid for with money raised by voter-approved Proposition R. That was a 2008 ballot measure in Chula Vista and National City. College officials hope the project pays for itself in 10 to 20 years. The panels are expected to work for 30 to 40 years. Two foundations that have adopted the neighborhood of City Heights invested about $250 million there, but they have little evidence to show that they've improved the lives of neighborhood residents. Tonight, KPBS Speak City Heights reporter Megan Burks shows us the hidden change in San Diego's richest poor neighborhood.
In the 90s, the city of San Diego and philanthropist Saul Price bulldozed 50 or so acres of City Heights homes and businesses to put in an urban village, a complex with a library, police station, park, and affordable housing. Those close to the project say not many residents came to community meetings on the plan or expressed much concern. They just wanted out of the neighborhood, and eminent domain gave them that chance. Flash forward to today, and meetings are the lifeblood of this neighborhood.
So that's why we're here.
Meetings like this one at Rosa Parks Elementary School.
How many of us believe there our students can go to college and be successful. ¿Cuántos de nosotros
Every month, mothers fill the auditorium to learn about the steps they can take to keep their kids on track for college.
Todos, right? Everybody.
Yolanda Rodriguez came to City Heights 15 years ago from Mexico and says she knew nothing about the school system, let alone how to get a kid to college. That's changed.
It's something that on a daily basis is part of our goals, part of our daily vocabulary at home.
Students in the neighborhood have not caught up to countywide averages for academic achievement, but Rodriguez says conversations about college are happening more and more around City Heights dinner tables, and that's a major shift. She says they're also talking a lot about the food on their plates. In 2010, City Heights youth were more than twice as likely as youth countywide to be overweight. Rodriguez now runs a monthly raffle at Rosa Parks to encourage students to eat healthy. She works on the initiative through a parent center funded by Price Philanthropies. Most of the schools in City Heights have these centers, and they stand as an example of the kind of work going on inside all of those brick and mortar improvements Price and the city brought to the neighborhood. Price Philanthropies President Robert Price says that's where you'll see his foundation's impact.
Our goal has evolved. I think when my father, Saul Price, first came into City Heights, his idea was to try to build some tangible evidence that this community could improve. But over the years, we've become much more expansive in what our goals are. And now it's really a holistic approach.
In the field, traditionally, there's just been a lot of focus on the economic and the structural pieces of community development. But I think that the learning over time has been that that doesn't always work well. Then you really have to pay attention to the people side of it.
Diana Ross heads community nonprofit Mid-City Can. In 2010, it partnered with the California Endowment on a 10-year effort to improve health in City Heights.
So you can definitely also see the ebbs and flows across time.
Full disclosure, the endowment funds KPBS's City Heights coverage. Price Philanthropies also helps fund KPBS. The strategy the California Endowment brought to the neighborhood: if any new infrastructure comes to the community, it has to be because residents became empowered, demanded it, and were heard by elected officials.
So it's not just the end goal or the change that residents want to see, it's also leaving behind the leadership and the power base for people to continue to own change in their community.
Ross says the most powerful example of this kind of work is a youth-led campaign to get a skate park in City Heights. After years of lobbying their elected officials for funds, the youth are just steps away from breaking ground on the project. On a recent evening, they met with city staff at the City Heights Recreation Center to dream up the perfect park. They cut out renderings of rails and ramps and assembled them on a map of the park, like dresses on a paper doll.
One dip and cross into another dip, like underneath the park or something, so you don't have to go all the way around. Yeah.
But there is some opposition to the project from homeowners. They also attended the meeting.
This is kind of a sneaky thing here.
We are opposed
to industrial. Yeah, you don't come into somebody's place without asking first.
So you want to take a look at it. It is online. We have it published, so if you want more information on it, you could just ask and we'll send it right to you.
That's Leslie Renteria. The 17-year-old surprised herself by speaking up about a report she and her peers put together to allay homeowner concerns about the park.
Before joining the youth council, actually being involved, I was pretty shy, and I never thought that I was able to speak up in front of people, and more to speak up to defend what I believe in and the work that we've done. I just didn't think I was important in the community.
Through her involvement with the skate park campaign, Renteria has realized she wants to become an urban planner so she can continue the work she and her peers have started in City Heights. For nonprofits with no statistical gains to show for their investments, Renteria and others like her offer hope. In 4 or 5 years, if Renteria graduates from college and returns home, they'll know their investment in the future of City Heights paid off. Megan Burks, KPBS News.
Peace activists from around the world are in San Diego for this year's Women Peacemaker Conference. Peggy Pico talks with 2 of the speakers about their global effort to end honor abuse and killings.
When she was just 14, her family told her she would be forced to marry an older man she had been promised to when she was just 8 years old. Instead, my guest, best-selling author Jasvinder Sangara, ran away from home and later founded Karma Nirvana, an advocacy and support group to help other women. Also joining us is Raheel Raza, author, women's rights advocate, and president of the Council for Muslims Facing Tomorrow. Welcome to Evening Edition.
Thank you.
Now, Jasvinder, the term honor violence refers to a broad range of things, of abuse from forced marriages, rights restrictions, female genital mutilation. Why did you run away from your marriage or from getting married? Was it an abuse situation?
Well, first and foremost, I was born in Britain and I did not want to marry a stranger. It was as simple as that for me. I'd watched this happen to my sisters at 15 years old when it was my turn. I said, no, I was born here in the UK. I want to go to school, educate myself and have aspirations and have the right to choose who I wanted to marry. So it was deemed dishonourable to say no to that marriage. That was dishonourable because as a young girl, my path was laid out for me. So I ran because to make the point. And subsequently, my family took the view that if you don't come home and marry who we say, you are now dead in our eyes, and they disowned me.
And that leads me to my next question, because the United Nations reports more than 60 million girls worldwide are child brides or forced into marriage. You named one reason why it's hard to leave, dishonoring your parent. What are some of the other reasons why maybe these children or these girls don't just run away or leave?
Well, also, you're socialised to believe this is the norm. I was taught it was part of my religion. My parents were Sikh, by the way, Indian Sikh, and we were told that it was written in the Sikh Bible equivalent, that this is what you had to do. We were told it was part of our tradition. So these are false. This is all false. This is all lies. But then you believe that, and then you're brought up within a family that tells you you can do this, it's honourable, you can't do this, it's dishonourable, this is dishonourable. It becomes your norm. So it's hard to question that. And also, you love your family dearly. You don't want to go against them. You feel that you are betraying them by going against them. And also there's the risk. You are fearful for your life sometimes. So you stay opposed to having to face disownment and live in life living over your shoulder.
I want to talk to you, Raheel, a little bit about the research that you have found that basically links the rise of extremism to violence against women. How are these two situations linked?
Well, the very fact that violence against women by itself is a form of extremism. So the issues that we have talked about in the documentary Honor Diaries, which is honor-based violence, is a form of extremism, but then you add to that religious extremism, which across the globe is on the rise in any community, and that plays into oppression of women. Because like Jasvinder said, you know, they are given religious justification, these are patriarchal societies, and they oppress the women, or this violence is perpetuated against them in the name of culture, in the name of faith. But we say that no religion allows killing of another human being, no culture allows abuse of another human being.
And this isn't just, some people might think this is just certain cultures. You were in Great Britain. This is across all cultures and all nations, correct?
Sure, and cuts across all classes as well. You know, this is not uneducated families doing this to victims. Educated families are also doing this as well. You know, and they're from various communities. As I made the point, my parents were Sikh. It's happening in Hindu, Afghan, Kurdish, Somalian communities, many communities.
And here in the U.S.?
Absolutely here in the U.S.
Okay. Raheel, this is a big topic to tackle. If you were to say, what are the first steps in ending violence against women, especially this honor violence, what do you think the first steps would be?
Well, in the part of the country that I was born, which is Pakistan, I would say that education, and this is not just secular education, but education about their own rights for women, and programs to mentor them. There has to be somebody who can support them, places that they can go to, because these, as I said, are patriarchal societies, so it's sometimes very, very scary for these women to leave. So, you know, the amount of aid that Western countries give Pakistan should definitely be incumbent on women's education. Don't forget, I come from the land of Malala Yousafzai, a 15-year-old girl who was shot in the face for wanting an education. We can't have that happening. Women need freedom, individual rights. They need the right to be educated, they need the right to speak out, and they need the right to take control of their own lives.
Well, unfortunately, we are out of time. There's a lot more on our website, kpbs.org. Raheel Raza and Jasvinder Sangara, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Steve Fisher got a 3-year extension at San Diego State as the head coach for men's basketball today. The school announcing the deal today. He says that he is looking forward to being with the team for a long, long time.
We love it here. I'm at an age, and when I came here, I was at an age where I wasn't looking to, what am I going to do to get my next job? This is a job that everyone should say, that's a destination job. That's where you can come and make a difference and have success and live in a community and be part of a school like this, and there's nothing better.
Fisher is in his 16th season with the Aztec. His record is 314 and 176, 314 wins here. A cold front is headed our way with a chance of rain, upper 60s along the coast. Same for the inland valleys. Rain expected on Thursday and Friday. It will be cooler in the mountains. Showers expected there too. No rain out in the desert. Temperatures in the 70s. Tonight's stories are online at kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks very much for joining us. We hope you have a great evening.